Okay, everybody, welcome to Chat with a Hat, our very first interview for the new podcast, Chat with a Hat, on Spotify and Google, and brought to you with the aid of, or with the assistance of sponsorship with Game Life. So all of your streaming and gaming needs, check out gamelife.com.au. Thank you very much, Sweeney, for kicking this kicked off. So let's introduce the man of the moment, who really needs no real introduction, Mr. Peter Adderton. Thank you very much for coming along and having a chat.
Yeah, Dave, thank you very much for having it. It's been a while. I think it's been since maybe Gold Coast or Bathurst that we saw each other.
It was. Yes. It was Gold Coast, I think.
It was indeed, yes, that event we had up there.
One of the best rounds that I've ever actually been to. You certainly know how to put one on, which is...
No, we were pretty proud about that one. I don't know when you guys called me to do this podcast. One of the things I think I've been a big supporter of is the fans, and more importantly, the grassroots fans, because ultimately without, you guys and without the fan base, we really have nothing as a brand and as a sport. So the fact you guys, I think this is your first podcast, the fact that I could come on and talk to you guys, and then hopefully, the fans see that this is a real podcast with no agenda. You guys just love the sport. You're massive fans of it. And I would be more than happy to do this as many times as you would like me to come on and have a chat.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Good to get some recognition for the fans as well.
I mean, we love a chat.
Yep, good. I'm here.
Well, let's get into the chat then. We'll start off with a little bit about some simple stuff first. So, hey, where did you actually start? Where did you grow up in, like, high school and primary school and all of that?
Yeah, well, good question. So I actually grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney. My dad was a motor mechanic. I started out in Baulkham Hills High School, actually, Baulkham Hills Primary School, and then moved to a school in Strathfield, where I think I fell out in year 9. I remember coming to my teacher, and I'd gone into 9. I was going into year 10, and at the end of year 10, my teacher pretty much told me that I was probably better with a trade career than I was to go on to year 11 and year 12. The irony is that I came home and my dad and mum looked at me and said, you failed. I think I had, back then we were allowed to have Fs. I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore because it's upsetting to the children that they failed. But I had basically failed. And I said to my dad, I'm going to put this report card in the freezer, Dad. And he goes, why? And I said, because you're going to bring it out when I make my first million. And, my dad's a motor mechanic, and my mum was working, 5 days a week. And she said, you're crazy, son. Get back out to work. You have to go to work. So ultimately, I brought that out of the freezer about 5 years later. So, I really started out in the western suburbs and from a very hardworking family and a very hardworking dad who taught me the principles of doing hard work and being passionate about what you do.
Beautiful. Did you start out originally as wanting to do telco, or what was your first business venture you got into?
No, the funny thing is when I left school, I had no career, right? So I basically was thrown on the streets by the school. Nowadays they spend a little bit more time trying to get you through into year 11, but in my grade it was like, well, you're out. So my dad said, you're going to come and work for me. So I went and my dad was a truck mechanic. So I went and started working for him. And the first day, it was kind of like the middle of winter. And he was changing truck tires. And for those who've ever tried to change a truck tire to break that bead, I did it for literally 20 minutes. I almost killed myself, snapped every one of my bones as I snapped it down because I was a thin little kid. I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, I'm going to die if I keep doing this. And I said, I got to go do something else. So I think he saw that I probably wasn't right for that line of work. So, then I went into aircraft engineering. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot badly. So I went up to a heli flight, for those who knew at the time, out of Castle Hill. I went up to the guy that owned it and said, listen, I want to be a helicopter pilot. And he said, you didn't really get through year 10, Peter. I said, yeah, but I'm a hard worker. So I went in, got aircraft engineering, and then became a helicopter pilot. And I think whenever I set my mind to something, and I think that was evidence of I wanted to be a pilot, I wanted to be an aircraft engineer. When I set my mind to something and I love it and I'm passionate about it, then I have the ability to achieve things. And I think that's in most people. Once you find that passion that you absolutely love. And so for me, that was really the drive. And then it went into marketing. You know, and the step between, you know, helicopter flying and engineering, I remember talking to a guy who was quite famous at the time, Dr. Jeffrey Edelston. He had a pink helicopter, and we used to fly Leanne, his wife, around in the helicopter. And I remember him saying, you know, you've got an ability to sell anything, Peter, and you've got a great market. You should go into that. So I said, yeah, but how do you do that? And he goes, oh, you got to go door to door. I said, what do you mean door to door? He said, go try to sell an encyclopedia. If you can sell an encyclopedia back in the time, obviously you don't need those now, but so I did that. So I did some pretty hardcore, go door to door, just really doing it the hard way. And then, you know, went into marketing, started my own agency, and basically that then led me to working with Optus at the time, and doing their marketing, and saw the advent of the mobile phone, and saw that young kids would be interested in it, and that they weren't talking to them, and decided to create the Boost brand. And so, you know, 20 years later, 9 million customers, 3 or 4 billion in revenue. I sit in front of you guys.
Beautiful.
That's cool.
Very nice.
You still fly choppers?
Yeah, I actually have had a helicopter over here for the last probably 8 years. Got about 3,000 or 4,000 hours. So I would commute every day from my house in Orange County to my office in Los Angeles. So for those who've ever been to LA and seen the 405, it could be a 2.5 hour trip. In the helicopter, it's 17 minutes every day, all the day. So it's
And you're flying it yourself, or have you got a?
No, I fly it myself. Yeah, I've got 3,000 or 4,000 hours. So yeah, I love helicopters. Cars, helicopters, boats, planes.
Love it. Yeah, no point paying someone else to do it when you love doing it yourself, I guess.
Yeah, the only reason why I used to fly with a co-pilot, because the company I was running, the insurance company, ensured that I had a second pilot next to me. But you know, I never really took the second pilot with me that much anyway.
I need one for the Monash freeway down here on the way to work.
I got to tell you, once you fly a helicopter and you look down on a Friday afternoon, you just see all those red trail lights on the 405 for like 25, 30 miles. You just feel good.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's got 10-lane freeway over there, and it's gridlocked.
Mate, it doesn't matter, mate. They could have 20 lanes and they'd still fill them up.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on. So Boost is now taking off, and I think you've just kicked off Mobile X, which is a revolution, which I'll get you to explain, because it's a fascinating concept, just so smart. But is that coming to Australia, the Mobile X model?
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, it's a very disruptive platform. So to give you a bit of an example, you know, when I ask people how much data they use on a monthly basis, most people don't even know. Right? They have no clue, and they don't know when they're in Wi-Fi and when they're out of Wi-Fi. So carriers basically sell you a lot of data. Over here in the US, it's basically around unlimited plans. I call them fake because they're not real. They do have caps on them. But so you're basically buying 30 or 40 or 50 gigabytes, and the average person's only using 11. And so what we wanted to do was use AI, the artificial intelligence and machine learning, to answer that adult question of like, how much data do I need? So basically you download the app. For the first 10 days, it's free. You just go do whatever you're going to do. And at the end of the 10 days, with a level of accuracy, you know, north of 90%, we come back and tell you exactly what you need on data. So you're only paying for what you need. And so we have the ability to significantly reduce the amount of money that you're spending on your mobile data bill, and also giving you the option to be able to save, right? So right now you don't know how to save because you basically just buy these monthly plans. And so it's something that's revolutionary. It's very, very different. And we think it's going to be something that the market's going to like.
Yeah, sounds great. Awesome. Hope it does come here, because I think I get about 180 gig a month with Telstra, and I use nowhere near that amount. I probably use about 40 to 50 gig at most, because I watch a lot of videos. But yeah, that's you know.
Well, the question is, are you watching video? Are you watching video at home, or are you watching it out on the street?
Well, I normally do our internet's with Vodafone though, so it's pretty terrible. So I just use the Telstra Wi-Fi because it's better quality.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Wi-Fi obviously doesn't affect your mobile bill. So I'd argue your mobile bill is probably quite significantly lower than that. But yeah, look, we're trying something new and different. You know, I always try to be disruptive, whether it's supercars or whether it's telco. I want to do some things that are different and kind of challenge the status quo.
Yeah, awesome.
So,
love it.
As we touched on that, and that's fantastic. But everybody, I'm sure, is pretty keen to talk about. We've just got our round one kicked off at Newcastle. So we've got our new generation cars, of which you have one, but it's not on the track. So
No, I think it's doesn't even have wheels on it. I think maybe it was at the track in the spare parts of 888. Maybe it was like lurking in the background there. But no, we don't have the car yet. We're hoping to get it. We were hoping to get a car and be able to race all year. It does frustrate me that obviously the 888 cars did quite strong on the weekend, and even Jimmy and Slade did very, very well in their 888 cars. And I think given Richie in a 888 car this weekend, we actually would have been quite competitive, because I rate him a very, very, very high driver. So I think we would have been very competitive in that car. And so it's a bit of a shame we weren't allowed to come along. And I can understand why the teams didn't want us there now, because they obviously want to keep the competition to a controlled format, and we're not obviously part of that brotherhood.
So you're able to delve into a little bit more detail as to why? Because we all know you weren't allowed, but are you able to give us any more detail as to why you weren't allowed into the sport this year? Do you know, and can you tell us?
Yeah, I can. I mean, the charter was written by the teams, and I think the new owners of Supercars were asleep at the wheel when they bought the series without actually checking. And so the teams hold all control over who actually gets to race and who doesn't get to race. And so their attitude is, you're rich, make us rich by overpaying for a team. So I'm not interested in donating money to someone who's not performing. And then the second one was, well, the charter has to go to the team first, and if the team doesn't want it, then you can have it. It's completely flawed. And I got to tell you, if we bought the series, which we were looking to buy it, that would have been the first thing I would have torn up, to say, you don't tell us how many cars can be on the grid. You don't tell us who can race. Because you know what we've seen at Newcastle was what we've seen for the last 3 years. There was no revelation coming out of, well, maybe Jack Smith will get in the top 10, or maybe, I'm just sitting back going, it's the same, right? It's the same old, same old. And the only difference was that 888 went backwards because, they've obviously had a change in ownership and they're going through a different time. The only difference was the Golding and those guys in the 888 cars came up closer to the front. So the rest was pretty much identical. And I don't buy into this. These cars, they're moving all over the place and they're wild to watch. They looked exactly the same to me. When they came into the corners, they looked the same. They came out of the corners the same. So I didn't really get the whole, these things are so hard to drive and they're all over the shop. And I mean, they pumped it up pretty hard, but from a spectator's point of view, I don't know about you guys watching the cars race, they look the same.
Race one was absolutely dull. It was so boring. I was so hyped and was really excited for these new cars to come out. Same as they're going to slide everywhere. They're going to be really hard to control, and there's going to be so much passing. And race one, there was nothing. Like they were couldn't get past each other. Shane Van Gisbergen even said they're actually harder than the other cars to follow behind. And it was just the first race was such a letdown. I thought, geez, I hope that's not an indication of the rest of the season, because it's not as entertaining as they'd hyped it up to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, look, I think, you got the same people building the cars that built the last ones that are building these ones, and we're expecting them to be radically different. Normally what happens is when you're building something, you've got a team of experts that have been building a car and running a car for a certain period of time. That will naturally, even subconsciously, will actually be built into the next car that you build, right? And so when you look at, as an example, Apple, when they create a product, the DNA of that product continues to live through the new products that they have. So I think that, we've got that. There's some things that are different about the car, obviously the look of it. But I think ultimately, from a spectator looking at the car racing around the track on the weekend, especially from television where I was watching, it wasn't swirling around and moving around, and it wasn't that it was so super easy to pass and hang on to somebody at the back of it. So I remember saying to Shane Howard early on, I think it was even back in December of last year, I said, Shane, can I give you one little bit of advice? He said, what's that? And I said, tell everybody that this is an evolution, that the first car you see on the track is our first Gen 3 car, but this car's going to evolve, right? And it might evolve in race by race, right? And I said, don't overhype the first race, right? Don't overhype. And I, the way Mark Scaife and those guys carried on by how close it was, got to the point where it was so over the top that they lost all credibility, in my opinion, like all credibility. And then having team owners up and down pit lane on the Saturday talking about what a great job all the teams did. We all got in there. It's a tetra. And then the next day, they're basically protesting one of the other teams to get them disqualified. So it's just, they talk out of both sides of their mouths. Yeah, we did a great job. We all worked together. It's a collective. Never seen anything like this in supercar world. We were all working together. And by the way, they cheated, and we want them disqualified. And then, Triple Eight's back going, well, everyone's cheating, so why are we getting penalized? And then the thing just falls into a complete and utter cluster. So, I just think these guys have just handled it poorly. So let's hope that, going forward, they learn out of the weekend to stop overhyping the cars, let everybody know that they're going to evolve, and we're going to get some things right, we're going to get some things wrong. And at the end of the day, judge us, come Bathurst. But they didn't say that. They wanted everyone to judge them come Newcastle. And I think the judgment was that didn't really work as well as they thought.
I can tell you at the track, so I went up there for the weekend, and I was sitting there down near the hairpin at turn 11. All the fans there that were watching, and everyone was hyped. They really were pumped. And the look of the cars got a big tick. The sound of the cars got a big tick. The speed of the cars are fine, big tick. But then at the end of race 1 and race 2, apart from the very end, everyone's going, yeah, processional racing. Like, it wasn't really exciting. Newcastle's hard to overtake. We get it. We know there's only a couple of spots there. And they were all very nervous, and nobody wanted to end up like JC, unfortunately, who in shootout bangs straight in and noses in. And everyone's wondering, do they have any spares? Can they get the car back out? Which they were unable to, lack of time. But everyone was pretty cautious, I think. So there wasn't really that door-to-door.
Yeah, but, Dave, just on that point, do the fans really give a shit? I mean, they're there. They've paid their hard-earned money to watch guys go race. If they haven't got their act together, then one, don't turn up and don't race and don't take our money, or give us a discount if all we're going to get is a procession because we don't want to damage our cars. As a fan who's paid hard-earned money, you want to see those guys go for each other. And even on the fact that everybody says Newcastle's hard to pass, right? Okay, fine. It wasn't like they were like this. It wasn't like you had 20 cars, right? So this concept of, well, it's just a hard pass. Okay, but that's okay. But not everybody was freight training each other. You had 2 or 3 cars that kind of stuck together, and then the rest just separated out.
Yeah.
So I just don't buy the concept of, well, we don't have parts, but we're here anyway, and pat us on the back just for turning up. I'm like, that'd be like basically the Rolling Stones turning up and saying, hey, Mick Jagger can only do 3 songs because he's got a sore voice, right? And he doesn't want to hurt his voice, so he's not going to do 4 songs. I'm like, it's not what I paid for. Yeah. So my attitude is supercar fans were robbed on the weekend, and they should have the ability to go door to door, bang to bang, and they shouldn't be telling drivers, don't crash your car, because if you bring it back, you won't be racing tomorrow. Then no one's going to really race hard. It becomes really a stunt show.
Well, based on, also telling the drivers, like, what were your thoughts? I've heard Dave and obviously Shane's press conference at the end where he refused to answer questions, and Dave was told he was pretty much gagged. Like, there's someone high up in supercars is telling these people they can't criticize these new cars. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, let's not beat around the bush. It's Mark Scaife. So Mark Scaife's telling them.
I didn't want to say it. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to say it. I mean, the issue you have is whenever you have a conflict of interest, right? And you have the ability to be able to use the commentary position to be able to push those agendas, you lose a lot of your kind of like independence. And, if you look at some of the other series, Supercars employs those guys, those commentators, and then basically farms them out to Fox and Seven. They really should be TV media working for Foxtel and working for Seven, and be able to say whatever they like without any consequences coming back from supercars. I think the way that they shut the drivers down from saying anything negative about the car is actually just creating a bigger and bigger problem for them. And in fact, if I was running supercars, I'd be the first one to be, hey, we didn't get this right. These cars need to be better. This is not what you guys signed on for. Give us a chance to get these cars better, instead of hyping them up like everybody did on the whole weekend. I mean, it just got so I almost felt like throwing up the amount of times they said how close everything is and look at parity and all this kind of stuff. And then Shane wins the first race by, half a lap. And in the second race, Shane laps, half the field and then wins the race. Had it have been the full length race, probably would have won that race by 20 seconds.
Yeah, about that. He was on target to do the same as the first 15 seconds.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting there going, okay, I know in business when we have a problem, right? We have an issue. I'm the first to say we have an issue. We need to get that fixed. But these guys are like somehow think that you guys, the fans, are so dumb that they'll buy all the rhetoric that you'll just literally sit there and whatever they say, you're all going to believe. It's just disingenuous by the guys who run, supercars and more importantly, the teams. You guys see what's going on. The fans see what's going on. You're sitting on the corner of the track and you're hearing it come back firsthand. It doesn't matter if I kept telling you that it was the best thing since sliced bread. If you're looking at it going, no, it's not.
It's been an issue for years with supercars now. Like there's, we've got social media. They can see everything the fans are saying, and you're constantly seeing criticism of them online. And very rarely do you see, criticisms come from, thousands of fans online that's ever addressed by supercars, because they just, it seems like they're just, they've got their heads somewhere, where it shouldn't be, rather than paying attention to the people that are making the sport and providing all the money for them, that are, bringing all those bums to the track. So they, that's something that they've lacked for a long time, I think.
Yeah, look, I mean, you can throw up a fan council and pat yourself on the back and say, look, we're listening to you. And then basically you listen and then walk away. It's not even, as I said, it's not even the, for me, the feedback of the fans. It's just not treating them like idiots. It's not pretending that they buy your bullshit, right? And I think if you're open and honest about it, and that's what, Davey was trying to do, and that's what Shane was trying to do, and they weren't doing it to be critical of the series, because the series pays their salary. They're not dumb. They were doing it to say, listen, we can do better, right? We can do better as an industry and as a sport. So here are some of the things that we probably need to fix and get right. I think the fans respected that more, and I think that the supercars did more damage to themselves by coming out and saying, well, if you're Shane, right, and you're sitting in the media, but first of all, he's paid to be a race car driver. He's not paid to be a commentator, right? That's a bonus for all of us as fans of the sport, right? If the driver wants to tell us what's going through his head, great. But if not, he's paid to race that car until he retires, and then he gets paid the commentary job. But I sit back and I go, there's no win for him, right? If he says, I'm not going to answer your questions because you're just going to turn them against me, or I'm going to get a text, from my team or from Scafie or from someone inside of Supercars, then why would I just do that? I'm just not even going to say anything, right? And then he gets hammered for not saying anything. And my attitude is he actually said more by not saying anything than if he had have actually spoken. So, Davey's the same. I think they're all under the same proviso. And I think the teams are as well. They're all trying to toe a line. Like, we can all see how badly it's broken, right? Like the whole world can. And they're so insulated in their own little cocoon that they think if they all say the same thing and sing off the same song sheet, they're all going to start singing with them. Well, we're not that stupid. And I'll be honest with you, fans are not that stupid. They know what's going on, and they just want honesty, I think.
100%. Yeah. Just if there's things that need to be addressed and need to be changed, as you said earlier, admit there's things that do need working on, and tell us how you're going to fix it.
It's simple. I mean, by the way, it's how I run my business at Boost and even Mobile X. I get on Twitter, I answer people back. I'm like the #1 customer care guy. If I see someone's got a problem, I try to get on Facebook and Instagram and try to answer as many fans back, the ones that like me and the ones that hate me. I don't care. Like, I just want to answer you back. I want to try to respond. If you've taken the time to respond to me or to respond to one of my posts, or you bought one of our products and we don't have the decency to try to respond back to you, I can't get to everyone because it's just inundating. I've got so many different, I think one of my posts yesterday is up to 350, 400. I just can't get to all of them in the comment section, but I try. And what I try to do is use a parent heading so we can actually speak to everybody. But I listen to everybody. In business, it's always been my trait to sit back and listen and improve, and not try to defend something that's indefensible.
Well,
Yeah.
you also, like, you don't just sponsor supercars and some of the drivers in our categories. You're multi-sports, you're multifaceted. You've got athletics, surfing, Moto X, is it?
Yeah, look, we obviously in the Honda Boost Mobile racing team, we've got surfing, we've got the WSL, we've got the mountain biking, which we do down in Thredbo, we've got music that we do. We've got a huge amount of different aspects of our brand that we push. But what I try to do is, the Boost brand, very much like the Red Bull brand, I think the Monster brand, is all about adrenaline, right? It's all about energy. And so what I try to do with the Boost brand when we look at things that we want to sponsor, and I get a lot of people ringing me and asking me, hey, look, can you sponsor this? Can you sponsor that? And, at some point you just say, hey, look, we've got a very clear strategy on what we want to do. The reason why we're not a sub-sponsor on a supercar is because we either are Boost Mobile Racing or we're not there. That's just not how I operate. It's got to be all or nothing. And we get a lot of people ring up, hey, we'll give you the side of the car or the tail of the car, or we'll give you this. We're like, no, we want Boost Mobile Racing, and I'll just wait until we can get it. So we are very focused on, the size and scale of what we do. We're a large company, so we want to make sure that we operate in that mentality of we want to be the first and the biggest and the best in whatever we do.
So is there a timeline for Boost Mobile Racing to come into supercars? Like, what's the realistic opportunity here with only one TRC that looks like they're pushing to give to Blanchards? So,
well, remember that the teams have to approve you. If it's left to the teams, I don't think they want us in there. I don't think, one, they want me in there because I'm vocal. I'll be transparent. I'm not a Camaro fanatic or a Ford fanatic, right? I love supercars. And so if I race a Camaro or I race a Ford, doesn't really matter to me. We just want to be the best on the track. So, I think from their perspective, I think that that's a concern to them, that I won't toe the line. And I think also that we will up the game for everybody else, right? We have the resources to do it. So we will up the game and we will make it better and put more pressure on everybody else. But right now, I think the top end of town, they like their business model, which is basically, there's only a couple of them. Really, when you think about it, there's only one factory Chevy team, and that's AAA, right? But there's like 3 factory Ford teams, right? Maybe even 4 with Tickford. So when you look at the way that they operate, it's a very different, the Blue Oval operates very, very differently. So you really, if you're a Ford team, you're basically racing the only 1-2 car team, which is the Chevy back factory team, right? Which is AAA. So we want to add more competition to that. So the front end teams are like, nah, we don't really want you. And then the back end teams don't want us because to them, it's a business model, right? It's what gives them their salary. And they basically run a small little rental car company down there. Everyone's given up on giving anyone expectations down there. So no one even cares whether they come 5th or 20th or 15th. They basically get paid no matter what. And so I think that's where we don't have a window to come in, right? We don't have a window to come in at the lower end to buy one of those teams out, because they basically aren't for sale, no matter how many people keep telling me they're for sale. They're not for sale because they make money. And then the high-end front-end teams, they don't want more competition, so they're quite happy the way that it is. So teams control the sport, and they control who gets the race, and they get to control the fans. I got a perfectly good car getting ready and an incredible driver sitting at home with me watching it on television while we watch back markers crash into each other. And I'm like sitting there going, as I was watching the race, I'm like, why aren't we there? Like, if you're supercars, like, don't you want guys like Boost there? Like, you think this is it? This is the pinnacle? And it just frustrates me, because I'm like, it'd be like having the star, quarterback sitting on the couch at home because the other teams don't want him to play. It doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense to me.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. And the fans aren't foolish, and they want the sport to expand themselves, just to create the proper racing that we want to see. So if that means we go to 30 cars on a grid, perfect. We go to 30 cars on a grid. If
imagine me, right? If I
cars down the back, so bad.
Imagine me, if I owned a team, I'd be live tweeting, live Instagramming during the race. Like, the fans would have more access to me than any other team manager and team owner up and down pit lane. I think we get a lot of fans out on our side. Even the ones that hate me, I think would probably end up following us, because I'll be up front. I'll be live streaming and telling everybody what's going on, what the problem is with our car, why we suck, why we're going fast, why that guy won't get out of our way. I mean, this won't be the zip up, let's still toe the corporate line and, oh man, we could do better. That's always next day, always tomorrow. I'm like, no, we fucked up. We should have done better. I mean, our drivers were too slow today. I mean, we will be real. And I don't think they want that. I don't think they want that in sport.
I think that's what Supercars has been missing for a long time is a little bit of controversy, a little bit of drama that goes on inside of it. You look at other categories around the world, any sporting category, you've always got somebody that's a little bit out there and a little bit, dramatic. The NASCAR guys are really good at it with, they get out there, they have their say, they get a little bit lippy sometimes, and it creates excitement. It creates it gets fans interested, even people that aren't interested in a sport. When there's a drama going on inside of sport, people that haven't even watched it before will go, oh, what's this? Why is there some, why is this stuff in the headlines all of a sudden? And then they look at it, and that's what's missing from Supercars is they don't have anything like that. And that's what they need. They need that to boost and lift the sport to, a next level, I think.
Look, they're all a bunch of backstabbers, those teams. I mean, it's so ironic on the weekend how they, as I said before, they pat each other on the back, and then the second they get a chance to throw the knife in, they throw the knife in. I just want to get in there and mix it up with those guys. That's what we want to do. Supercars knows that. I think if it was up to Supercars, we'd be there. I think they understand the entertainment value and the factor of that we would bring to it. But as I said, it's not up to Supercars. We've signed up for another 2 years for Supercars, as you know, at the Boost brand. And, my team at Boost run that, so I don't really get involved. Even if I said don't do it, they have the ability to overrule me. They can just say, nah, screw you, people are doing it. And they do it all the time, by the way. I'll ring up and say, I don't want to do this. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And then they just go do it. But I'm fine with it. I mean, that's what we pay them for. That's Jason and the team there are designed, are in that organization, not for me to tell them what to do, but for them to basically run that organization. So we signed up because we love the sport. And we think that, over the next 6 months, that Supercars will slowly start to see and start to put more pressure on the teams to say, we're going to give him the charter for 2024, whether you like it or not. And what are they going to do? Sue Supercars, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to sue them. I mean, they just accept it and move on. Shane and Barclay and those guys, they just need to get a bit tough, mate, and just say, listen, it's our sport. We invested in it. We spent all this money buying this sport. We're going to grow it. That was our promise to you. Now get out of our way. We're letting these guys in. And we think that they'll grow the sport, because right now you've got a big brand like Boost sitting on the sidelines, right? No car. And I will not sponsor a team. And we've been asked, I will not sponsor a team until it's our own team.
Yeah. I think Dave, you said it a while back. We need someone, a bit more Tony Cochran, dictator-esque, like
Tony
in the
Cochran
sport.
attitude that needs to be applied.
Yeah.
The benevolent dictator. So if everyone pull together, do it my way, because you're just going to promote the sport, turn it into a multi-million-dollar turnover.
Yeah, I just don't think they. I think they honestly think. I mean, you think about it right now. I mean, I've have a say, and I've got a big company that's willing to get behind it, and I think that their concern is they'd rather me just go away and not agitate them. But anyone who knows me, I don't give up, right? I will wear them down, right? I will get on Instagram every weekend and I will point out the facts, right? With no political filter. I will just point out the facts as they are. And I'm seeing that, more and more people are going, all right. And the more we do these type of podcasts where I say, listen, even if you can't stand me, even if you think I'm the biggest sook in the world and that I'm a crybaby and I'm all these things, fine. Just follow me, get on my Facebook page and have an opinion. I'll listen, you listen to mine, and we can disagree. But you know what? Let's start talking and let's start moving in the one direction. Let's start driving the fans towards making a change. And I have the ability to be able to be their voice at a very senior level inside of Supercars, right? Where you may think that, I'm not being heard. Get behind me. Again, even if you hate me and you don't even want to follow my team if I ever get one, get behind me, because I'm probably the one catalyst on the fans' side to make things better. So that's what I say to everyone. Come on, have a whinge, do whatever you want to do. I don't care, but at least come on and have a say.
Yeah, that's perfect.
100%.
Yep. I think you garnered a lot of support. You rallied a lot of Supercars fans in there, whether they were pro Peter or against Peter. You were able to sort of pull them together and steer them in one direction, where the end result, the end game was trying to improve the sport, having more cars on the grid, putting more investment into the sport, and bring back some more fan experience and better, harder racing. Like, it's all positive. There's no downside. It's a win-win for everybody, to be perfectly honest. There's no losers in this argument.
It is, and I don't mind criticism of me, because sometimes that can be over the top. Sometimes I can say some things that even in the back of my mind, I go, well, I probably could have done that a little better. But, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with people coming on and basically, saying, oh, where's your car? Like, why is your car there? You said you were going to turn up at Newcastle and your car wasn't. Well, first, the car wasn't ready. So it's very hard to turn up with a transporter and roll out a rental thrifty Camaro. So I wasn't going to do that. So we just literally couldn't be there. But that's okay. I mean, they don't hurt my feelings, right? Everyone thinks, everyone gets really sensitive. Oh, man, that guy came after you. I don't care, right? I actually respect them because they took the time to come on, right? And a lot of them, if you go back, I try to comment on. I just try to, downplay it by literally playing up to them, going, what are you talking about, right? And a lot of them, a lot of these fans, they don't have the facts right.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Half the time I don't have them right either. So I forgive them.
Well, we had a little bit of back and forth a while back in terms of, I think it was when one of the Supercars teams, I think it was DJR, was trying to do the carbon neutral thing, which I kind of think is a good idea, but you don't like it and you disagreed on it. We had a bit of a back and forth on that, but you never once told me to piss off and never want to say anything again. It's just a bit of it's a back and forth. Everyone's got their own opinions on something, and you don't always have to agree with people. It's just that's just the way it is. So
no, look, I think that it's I just think it's funny that a V8 supercar team becomes carbon neutral by panning a bunch of trees, right? Which basically is how you offset, you get carbon points. As you know, I'm also the same on organic food, by the way. I think organic food is the biggest ripoff of all time, considering that you only need to have, especially in the US, I think 25% of the ingredients only need to be organic, and you can actually call yourself organic. If you've got processed sugar in your foods and it's organic, it's still processed. So, and when it comes to carbon, I just found that funny, because if like 5 of the trees die that you planted, is you no longer carbon neutral, or what happened? So I just think that that's not something that a supercar fan is sitting back going, hey, because if you really were that concerned about the environment, you turn these things into electric cars. Now, not one of you guys are going to turn up to listen to an electric car go around that circuit at Bathurst. So if you really are, and that's why I come from it, like, I'm okay if you can do something that technically is better for the environment and doesn't cost me any more, all for it.
Well, even myself, as I like to consider myself a little bit of an environmentalist, but as a diehard motorsport fan as well, I'd die if supercars ever lost that sound. To turn them fully electric, it'd be, and unless they can make an electric car that sounds like a V8, it would kill the sport, I reckon. So.
But you and I, being an environmentalist that's concerned, I'm concerned about that as well. I will be honest with you. Like, I love mountain biking, and I don't want to see the trees and forests knocked down, right? So I think there's a certain amount of preservation that we should keep for us, beaches, all that kind of stuff. I think is absolutely critical. Not letting people build on beaches. So yeah, I'm all about making sure that we all get to enjoy nature, right, and that we don't kill it off. And so I think that that's absolutely critical. But as far as the environment's concerned, and the carbon neutral, the biggest polluters are the poorest countries in the world, right? India, China, Indonesia. And if you're poor, the last thing you give a shit about is the environment when you're trying to feed your family. So until you can fix them, what we're going to do is really going to be nothing. Everyone's, oh, you don't do nothing, then you've got to do something. I'm like, well, you know what? If you want to do something, get on a plane and go over and start helping the poor people. And once you get those guys sorted out, then you'll get the environment. But we're such a small dent in the scheme of things. But again, I'm all for more land, more open parks, more beaches, more water, cleaner water. I love all that stuff. And I think that that's absolutely critical to our country.
Beautiful. Awesome. So there was one question that I did have. It's a little bit more of a lighthearted one, this, Pete. It's you do come across as someone that really likes winning and doesn't like to lose at all. So why do you support Parramatta?
You know, that hurt. I'll be honest with you. That hurt. So it goes back, man. I used to sit on the hill at Parramatta. Basically, it was about 15 minutes from my house when I grew up in the western suburbs. So Parramatta became my team. There's no doubt that Parramatta has been the single biggest disappointment in my life. I know one of the directors there. You know, as I said, I think I made a joke when I said that you know, when I go into the grave, I want Parramatta team to lower me in because I want to be let down one last time by Parramatta. But look, you know, at the end of the day, it's not Manly.
Yeah, true.
That's very true. Very true. I'll give you that.
At least it's better than Manly. I know a lot of diehard Manly fans.
Yeah, we wouldn't be talking.
100%. Dave and I are both Storm boys, so we had to give you a bit of a dig on that one after round one.
You're Melbourne boys, right?
Yeah, Storm.
We are, yeah.
See, I'm a Collingwood fan.
That's even worse than Parramatta.
Nah, because obviously we sponsor and I'm good friends with Geordie DeGoey.
That's
and
right.
So, yeah, so we you know, went and watched those games, and I'll be honest with you, until I really, you know, started following the game because of our support of Geordie, I actually didn't like it. I've been in America 20 years, so I was kind of into the NFL and the rugby league. And then I went down and watched the game in Melbourne at the MCG where Geordie was playing. And I'm a massive fan of AFL. I don't want to say that because I'm obviously a New South Wales rugby league boy.
Western Sydney boy.
No, I actually used to think it was seriously just a lame-ass game. And I've got into it now, and I actually find it just quietly a little bit more interesting.
I'm born and bred in Wagga in New South Wales, so I'm a country New South Welshman, born and bred. So it took me a long time to get into AFL, but I've been down here for 20 years now, and I actually do quite enjoy it. But
me too.
It does take you a little bit for someone who's been rusted on rugby league their whole lives. It does take a little bit to get into, but once you do, it's really enjoyable.
Because you actually don't think that there's any really skill in it. It's just a bunch of guys chasing a ball. But actually, when you start to watch it, there actually is a tremendous amount of skill in that game.
100%, yeah, definitely. In terms of sport as well, you say you're into the NFL. Who's your team there?
Oh, and the NFL over the Chargers.
Chargers.
So I know Mike Williams, who's one of the wide receivers there. So I love the Chargers. They're obviously LA, just up the road from us here in Orange County. So it's probably
won't tell you I'm a Rams fan then.
No, mate, you know, everyone's got their faults. Right.
Too good.
Don't mind the Chargers.
Wasn't the Storm? Didn't we send you the Storm? Wasn't the Storm some team in Sydney, Western Suburbs, or whatever? We sent you them down to you guys. What were they before the Storm?
Oh no, well, primarily Adelaide Rams.
Yeah.
Oh, the Reds.
Yeah, I'm sure
Reds.
we donated a team to you guys, or Adelaide. I mean, I'm sure it came from
Perth, Western Reds and Adelaide. We donated our players from there.
That's right, the Western Reds.
You donated us a team, and we just made it good.
Yeah. No, you did.
Yeah.
You did a
Do
good job.
you get to go to the footy much? Do you get to go out?
I went when I was back in Australia during COVID because I spent a lot of time there, obviously because we went into complete and utter hell in Australia. And you couldn't leave. So I went to a couple of games when I was down there, and I go to a few games here. I've been to like 6 Super Bowls actually in the US. So it's you know, NFL's a funny game. A lot of people don't get into it, but actually when you live here, it's like AFL. When I lived here and I got into it, you actually quickly realize the skill level, you know, of the defensive coordinator and the offensive and the two sides of the teams and the thinking and how they're trying to, I mean, it's how those guys basically throw the ball and then it lands straight in the guy's arms, and he's ran that way. I mean, it's just blows my mind. And there's a lot of skill in that game.
I just love it. I've always said NFL's like a game of chess where you beat the crap out of each other. That's basically what it is. So yeah, you know, there's so much strategy involved as well. And then you just, you know, once you've made your plan, instead of moving your chess piece, you go and throw yourself head first at a 200-pound bloke with a helmet on. So great.
Hey, Rowan, you could have at least put a Boost Mobile 500 backdrop behind you instead of that liquid molly shit you've got up.
I was actually trying to, but we were running a bit late with the getting the.
Okay, because I'm just sitting there looking at it going, and we had a car in that race as well. Jesus.
Yeah, I was trying to get it sorted out, and then the meeting started abruptly, and I completely forgot.
Oh yeah, well next time.
100% for next time. I've even got it ready to go. I just didn't get it up there, so you reminded me.
It's all good. I'll forgive you.
So what else do you get to do with your spare time then, Pete? Apart from working, obviously you're a hard-working bloke, but you got your family time there. So how do you balance your work and your family life? How do you find the balance for
So it's a good question. So I actually didn't have a balance for a while. When I first started Boost, it was work. Maybe I got to the family, and then fitness was like dead last. And I got really quite ill by running that lifestyle, constantly around the clock, missing things from my family. This was when I was in my 30s and early 40s. I was working my ass off, and I had a bit of a health scare on my heart, because I basically was over 200 or so pounds, and I was not healthy. And so the doctor said, you keep running at this pace, Peter, you're going to end up dead. And I don't know whether you guys realize, but when you're dead, it's very hard to come back from. So there's no medicine that will bring you back from that. So I it was a wake-up call for me, and I was like, I better get. So then I reorganized my priorities to family, fitness, and work. And I've done that with Boost, and every company I've got, I tell my employees straight away, if you have a family matter you want to deal with, nothing, I don't care if it's the most important meeting in the world, go do that. Go do that meeting with your family. Go spend time with your family and fix that up. Second one is fitness. Like, just get active, right? You know, and I mountain bike 2 hours every day, right? I'm an extremist in anything I do, so I can't do anything by half, but you don't need 2 hours every day. But if someone comes and says, I'm going to go for an hour, I'm going to go surf, or I'm going to go for a run, or I'm going to go for a bike ride, or I'm going to go do this, or play tennis, good, go. I want you to. Because if your family's healthy and happy, and you're healthy, work will only become more important, and you perform better. And so I reorganized my priorities, and ever since I've done that, I've had more success. So I just tell anybody, family, fitness, work, that priority. If I find out that you're in the office and your family had something on at school, or you were needed and you didn't go, I'll fire you. So, okay. And I said, I want you to also get out and be active, right? Because everyone's like, oh, I'm working so hard, I haven't got time to get active, I can't do this. I go, fine, don't just get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? You want to take off around 10 or 11, go do something. I'm okay with it. Fine. I mean, the world's not going to end because you're away for an hour. So that's how I really had to, but I had to learn the hard way. Like, I got very, very sick, so I had to learn the hard way. And I'm glad I got out, because I got a lot of friends of mine who haven't made it, who've been working their backsides off, and basically have just dropped dead because of their heart issues, which they never knew they had. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to go that way.
No, something that's great values. It's great value, because you can't buy it back. You can't buy the time back. Doesn't matter how much money you got.
You can't. And it's so funny, because you just think that every day you're working and everything's going, you're working your backside off, and you think, I'm going to retire. And a lot of guys just like, and girls, they just drag themselves into the ground so hard that they get depressed and anxiety, and they wake up and they're like, man, I'm over 50, right? I can see 60. What the hell? Like, where's my life gone, right? And so I said, get out, enjoy it, have fun. But more importantly, I mean, I've got a kid in Pepperdine up here. My teenage daughters are all in college now, and my eldest one's got a baby up in Newcastle, and I look at that, and it was like yesterday that they were like 5. It's like, what happened? So, I think it's just really important that we, because I look at supercars and business, you guys, as much as people get really passionate about it, it's a game. Let's be honest. Our health and our family is more important. That's what makes us successful. Doesn't matter how much money I've got in the bank, right? If you had a great family and a great life, you're the most successful human being in the planet, right?
I agree. 100%. Absolutely agree.
And that's how I look at it. And everyone's like, well, what if you lost everything? Okay. I started with nothing, and I was just as happy as I was when I had something. I'm not scared to lose everything, right? I'm not. I'm really not scared, right? I know supercars, I'd love it.
Yeah, I think that's a key to a good thing to have as well, though, is not being scared. You know, it allows you to take some more risks and stuff as well when you're not scared to throw it all away for a risk or something you think might work. It's definitely going to help you in business as well, I'd say.
It does, and as I said, I try to take my time. There's in life you have these things where you remember them as a kid, right? And there's one instance that I remember as a kid. My dad was a motor mechanic, and we didn't have a lot of money. And his boss, he was a truck mechanic, but his boss had this boat, right? And my dad really wanted to show us kids this boat. So he took us down to the boat, and he was showing us around. And the owner turned up and basically kicked us off the boat, right? Get off the boat, you guys shouldn't be on here. And I said, "I'm my dad." Anyway, I remember sitting on the wharf, right? And I remember the look on my dad's face, right, of sheer disappointment that he was trying to show us, and we got booted off, right? And this big rich guy basically threw us off the boat, right? And so that moment in time for me was like, if I ever got successful, I would never treat anyone like that.
Yeah.
And I went on, I bought a 80, 90-foot boat, and I would have people come on. Kids would walk past and say, "Come on, have a look at the boat." Helicopter, come in, look at the helicopter. Actually, let me take you for a fly. And there's those moments which are very grounding, right? And so for me, you'll always see when I'm at the racetrack, I always try to talk to as many people as I can. I try to say hello to as many people as I can. I'm not an elitist who walks straight into my motorhome and just hides. I try to go out and talk to people because I was once on the hill. I was once one of those kids, and I'm still that person. And for me, that's how I will always operate. Now, you just remember these things in your mind, as a kid, of like, I'm never going to treat anybody like that, right? The irony is, by the way, that guy that had that big boat actually went broke and actually called me to actually ask, would I actually help invest in his company to keep him afloat?
And I'm assuming that was a no.
Oh, he was who are you? So that guy, he went bankrupt. So, and you know what? That was his attitude. He deserved to go bankrupt.
That's karma. Yeah, karma's going to come for you. Yeah.
So it was a good feeling.
So what do you do with your spare time then?
Mountain bike.
Do you have any?
Mountain bike and the kids. I've got an 8-year-old. So I just basically do mountain biking, kids, and work. But I work 24/7. So I'm always on, right? So, that's the greatest thing about having these devices. So I'm always on. I was in New York last week doing a media tour for Mobile X, Fox Business and a bunch of different, Bloomberg, etc. So I'm always on that front. But is basically taking those 2 hours a day just to go unwind, ride my mountain bike, forget about everything, and then come back. But yeah, my life, I took 18 kids to Universal Studios, 18 9-year-olds. I don't know whether you've ever been to Universal Studios. It's hard enough with 4 of you. You try to take 18 girls with you, it's a complete and utter nightmare. So, but I love that. Like, I absolutely love it. Most dads are like, I couldn't think of anything worse. I'm like, I love it. So I'm a very big family man, for those who don't know. I think that they are extremely important in my life.
I think that's a good trait for anyone to have. Is just so many people just especially people in business and that have been quite successful have end up their parents, when they get to a point where they're quite successful, they're running the business, they kind of lose track of spending time with their kids. So it's good to see that there's people out there that are putting that as their priority and still spending as much time as they can with their families.
Yeah, that to me is just the greatest part of life, is kids, and the fact that hopefully they'll look after us when we're old.
Yeah. Insurance policy. You have a half dozen.
No, but it is good. I've got a mum that's suffering dementia right now, and it's hard. And she's got 3 kids that are going to look after her, right? Because she looked after us. So I think that's hopefully, as I said, that'll be payback. Although knowing my kids, I guess I said they'll just throw me in a room and throw the key out. So Dad will come and throw you food once a day. But look, I think it's great to have, you know, a good family.
So speaking and sorry to hear about your mum with the dementia there. Did you hear that I think the F1's new title charity this year is is for dementia. So Jackie Stewart's got on board and actually made the title sponsor I can't remember the exact company, the charity, but it's a charity that's dedicated to kind of doing what they can to eradicate dementia, which I thought was pretty good because not a lot of people focus on that. I don't think so.
It is funny because it is actually very widespread. Like, you know, obviously the problem is that it happens to old people, right? And when anything happens to old people, it's almost like accepted. You know, they're old. Of course they're going to get dementia. Like, that's okay, but they're still a human. And I was the same, by the way, until my mum got dementia. I was like, yeah, it just happens to old people. I you know, so I'm not even interested in really knowing about it. And when it happened to my mum, and I found it when we were over here in the US, and we had a brain scan, and we could see the part of the brain that was actually, you know, shrinking. It was an eye opener for me. And then when you go through it, the problem with dementia is that you get to, you know, sadly you grieve twice. You grieve when they lose their minds, and then you grieve when they die. And it's very few things that you have to go through it twice. You lose your mum, you know, mentally, she's no longer your mum, it's just the body sitting there. And then obviously they go from there. So it is just way more widespread than I thought. I think I read the other day that Chris Hemsworth has the gene, right? The dementia gene. And someone said to me the other day, will you get tested for it because your mum's got it? I said, no, I don't want to know. I said, if there's a cure, you know, I made jokes about it with my mum going, you know, when she was diagnosed. I said, Mum, you know, when it's Easter, you'll be able to hide your own Easter eggs. Look at all the positives. She's like laughing and carrying on. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you got to kind of smile about it because at the end of the day, there's no cure to it. So when I sit with her, it's quite unique because I get to talk to her, and she doesn't know who I am, but I talk to her like a friend. Like, so she's telling me about her kids, and it's just a very nice thing to be able to still interact with your mum, but, you know, knowing that your mum doesn't know who you are. So, but look, I'm glad everyone's doing it. I think I'm trying to get more involved in it because I think it's a disease that's more widespread than we may even know.
Yeah, definitely.
I think Bruce Willis has got it now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it was that. Yeah, or whether it's dementia or multiple sclerosis, one of those two. But
no, he's got dementia.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
A form of. Yeah. Anyway, live every day as it comes. That's the key.
That's the one. It. Well, is there any questions or anything you want to talk about with us? Hey, anything you want to know?
No. Look, I mean, we obviously have chatted for a while, and I think that I love, you know, as I said, I could do any really podcast I wanted to do. I love these grassroots podcasts. I hope the fans get behind you guys. I hope they listen, and I hope that other guests will come on and really get you guys to be kind of like the grassroots, you know, podcast for the fans, and with zero agendas, just to want to make the sport better. And, you know, I know that I'll say something you won't agree with, and I hope you call me out on it. And I expect you to call me out on it. And then I'll respond, and then I'll probably never speak to you again. But anyway, but no,
we know that's not the case.
Yeah, I want you to call me out, and I'll come on and defend what I've said. But as I said, I want everyone agreeing with me. What I want them to agree with is that the sport can be better, and all of us collectively can make it better.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone pushing together.
So thanks for having me.
No, Pete, thank you very much for your time. The last most important question of the whole lot, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No. It's the stupidest
thing.
No,
anymore. That's the end of it. You were going so well.
No, I don't get it. I don't get it.
That's sweet and savory. It's sweet and savory mixture. It's a perfect combination.
I guarantee you, when the Italians created the pizza, their first thought wasn't pineapple.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to an Italian restaurant that has pineapple on their pizza.
No,
that's for sure. Yeah.
No. Why don't we put banana on there? Jesus, why are we discriminating against the banana or the orange?
just us Westernizers came in and bastardized it. So
banana and bacon doesn't really go that well.
Oh no, I don't get it either. I don't get putting a shrimp on a pizza either, or a prawn as they call them back in Australia. Still don't get that. Anyway,
what's your go-to pizza, Pete? What's your go-to pizza then?
oh mate, I go with the standard margarita. I'll just throw some pepperoni and sausage on there. It's just pretty simple.
Yeah, beautiful. Some of my favorites as well.
Yeah,
love it.
Hey, it's funny, in Australia, I used to order the vegetarian with beef.
Oh, well, they do pretty good sometimes. They're just even better when they're
I go to Pizza Hut, I get the vegetarian with beef. So,
yeah.
Hey, boys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Catch up again.
All right.
Definitely at the Goldie. You coming out for that one?
Yeah, I know, mate. I won't miss that. No way.
Yeah, so next time you're back in Oz, after your mobile X.
Hopefully I'll have my wild card there. You guys can come up.
Sorry,
fingers crossed.
Hopefully you can do a live cross out of our pits with our wild card, Richie and the Gold Coast.
Oh yeah, wild cards. How do we get one of those? What's the deal with that?
I mean, it's the same thing, mate. It's like, it's the teams.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Look, the only time I get on the racetrack is when the teams agree. So just remember that. It's not Supercars, it's the teams. So when the teams agree, then I'll get on.
I'll tell you,
we'll keep piling the pressure on.
Renee Gracie gets her wild card back at Bathurst and heavy.
You know, someone said that, and I've been away for 20 years, and I actually didn't follow Supercars until 2017 again, or 18 when I took Boost back over. So I didn't even know who she was. And so everyone kept saying when she announced that she was going to do something, like, you got to get behind her. And I kept saying, who is she? Like, I wasn't around. Like, I wasn't following Supercars up until when I came back in with my Walkinshaw car, which was 2017. So I literally had no clue who she was. But I will say this, that some of the things I read that people say about her, and I don't know her, she's still someone's daughter, right?
Oh, yeah.
She's still...
it's feral.
It's terrible. I just sit back and go, you know what? That's just not nice. And, you know, if Supercars are worried about her image damaging their sport, then their sport's already damaged, right? So that to me is something that is just frustrating. So anyway, I don't know it from anything, but I just think that maybe a little bit more respect.
That go a long way for a lot of things, mate. 100%.
That sort of stuff's going to be talked about in the podcast this week, actually. So we'll tune in for that one, and we'll be having a bit of a chat about that sort of stuff.
Awesome. All right, guys, be good.
Take it easy, mate. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Thanks very much for your time, mate. Cheers. Much appreciated.
Bye.
See ya. All right. There we go.
All right. I'll just stop this recording now. Just leave it run for a little bit.